Hello everyone, this is Pico Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video debate for you, and we're going to talk about outrage marketing within current entertainment, whether it exists and does it actually work in terms of ratings and success for content. So what do I mean by outrage marketing? This is essentially when you provoke reaction or incite an emotional response or a dramatic response in order to help promote your material. Now, to be fair, this initiative of shock value using controversy to sell has always been around entertainment for decades. At the end of the day, whether we like it or not, people, in terms of a cultural sense, they like drama, they like outrage. It gives them that sense that they're watching something far more real as opposed to something far more fictional. And this attitude and mindset was very much prominent going way back when we had the emergence of the likes of the Jerry Springer show, if you remember, way back, and also the Big Brother and the reality TV boom in the early to mid 90s in terms of overall entertainment. So outrage content has always been there, but for me there was always a balance. And as somebody growing up in the 80s, there was far more of a positive mindset where the best way to market content was to make good content, make great quality films, television series, and the quality of that content would be your marketing. In good buzz, good reviews, good critical reception, and that word of mouth would transcend through to general audiences alike, and it would spread for weeks or months, and that would garner the content far more success. If we look at so many of the classic franchises, particularly through the 80s, many of them didn't need to rely on outrage or negativity or drama in order to be successful. Yes, there were certain movies that were controversial, maybe in terms of their violence or their nudity or their profanity, but overall they were still good in terms of their stories, their performances, and overall filmmaking. And that quality shone through and was well received by both critics and audiences. And of course the marketing had to be good in terms of iconic posters and promotional material, but overall the quality of these films or television series would shine through. We would have so many films that would debut low in the opening weekend or box office charts, but they would grow more organically and consistently and would actually end up becoming the biggest hits of the entire year that they are released. Now recently what's happening now is that we're getting adaptations of source materials or IPs or certain characters, and the objective isn't to make something good, the objective is to make something provocative, something that triggers reaction. And I'm not even talking about triggering or provoking in terms of graphic or explicit material. What I'm talking about here is taking these very famous IPs that have very loyal fan bases, changing the source materials, you know, the usual standard we're used to by now in terms of race swaps or gender changes, and it's all done simply to gain more traction on social media, trigger the loyal fan base, enhance a lot of negativity, make a lot of the fan base angry that they're seeing these established iconic characters being retconned, changed in order to appease and pander to certain demographics. And then that loyal fan base will get really angry and start to make videos or articles or tweets complaining about how bad the treatment is of the source material, and all of these activities will then gain traction on social media, which will result in more clicks and hopefully more views and more ratings. Now recently we've really seen things being taken to the next extreme, in my opinion, with actors, showrunners, directors making statements on social media rather random and really, if we think about it, unnecessarily, just in order to generate traction and hopefully gain some sort of hype and buzz for the upcoming projects. We recently talked about creators who were better served by not responding to online criticism, and you can check out that video within my channel. And we talked about how provoking or reacting to criticism creates drama, which then gets talked about more than the actual content itself. But it seems now that that is the primary objective of so many of these adaptations. The current goal is very much just to get people talking about you. It doesn't matter whether it's in a positive or negative sense, as long as they're talking about you, then that's all fine, and that will be the quick shortcut way to being very successful in terms of your platform. Now don't get me wrong, we all know that this is very much of a feature within social media itself, particularly when we talk about the likes of Twitter and YouTube, where the algorithm very much favours a lot more negativity and drama and hatred and controversy. But it's one thing when we have online creators or YouTube personalities trying to garner more traction, but it's another thing completely when that mindset becomes the forefront of mainstream entertainment as well. So if we look at the recent examples of what I'm talking about here, And the first one includes the recent Netflix live-action adaptation of the Cowboy Bebop anime, which came under criticism for the look of certain characters, in particular the female character known as Faye. Many fans felt that the live-action take here didn't correctly reflect the original version of the character. Many felt it was too bland and lacking the colour and both sexuality of the character from the anime. So normally in a scenario like this, you would expect actors or actresses not to respond. As I've mentioned previously in other videos, the best way to take the power away from critics or haters or trolls is to ignore them. And then by being successful once the content comes out, that's how you truly defeat them. And we all know the nature within social media is that people will complain for something for a short amount of time, and then when they realise that they don't get any traction from complaining, they will then move on and moan about something else. So this is why it's best for actors and actresses not to respond to any hatred or criticism online. But in the case of Cowboy Bebop, actress Daniela Pineda, who plays the character Faye, released an Instagram video recently responding to the criticism, and many felt that she was being very sarcastic and condescending to the fans. She made certain references to the costume and how she was sorry that she didn't have quite the physical attributes that would match the character, and that the costume would be very difficult to wear in terms of filming the live action sequences. Now, many will say that she's perfectly within her right to stick up for herself, but the problem is whenever you are adapting any iconic source material or IP, there is always going to be criticism, regardless of how good or bad the actor or actress looks within the certain character. This goes even more so when you're adapting anime, which you all know has a very dedicated and hardcore fan base. So in this scenario, I look at the actress and I think, why make the video? Did no one tell her to, or did someone tell her to make the video? Why not let the content and her performances in the role as Faye prove itself when Netflix releases the show? Or at very least, try and come across as far more agreeable and compromising to the fandom overall, because at the end of the day, the fans are the ones who matter most in terms of consuming entertainment. But regardless of her own approach or whether we feel she should have released the video or not, we can't deny that it has garnered a lot of traction on the internet and for the show. So we ask again, was this deliberate? Because at the end of the day, she didn't have to make the video. Nobody was forcing her to do it. As I mentioned before, so many actors and actresses get criticism all the time. So there was no reason why Daniela could have just ignored the criticism and it would have gone away after a day or two. So was she told or was she instructed to actually make this video and do it in such a provocative way which would help garner a lot of traction and have people make videos and do commentary on it? We then had Simu Liu, the lead actor from the Shang-Chi and Legend of the Ten Rings, the latest Marvel superhero movie and the first Asian-led superhero movie, and he replied recently to the Disney CEO Bob Chapek's comments when he was talking about the structure and release schedule of the Marvel content, referring to the joint day-and-day release in terms of theatrical and streaming on Disney+, and he noted that the decision to make Shang-Chi have a 45-day theatrical release window before it went to Disney+ streaming much more of an experiment. Now, we all knew exactly what Bob Chapek was talking about, but for some reason Simu Liu took to Twitter to respond, essentially stating that we are not experiment in terms of talking about him and the cast of Shang-Chi. You'd like to think if Simu Liu really had a problem or an issue with Bob Chapek, then why not just contact him privately, either through himself or through his agents, and then have it out behind closed doors? Why have you got to put it on Twitter for everybody to know it about, when clearly Bob Chapek's intent was talking about the overall release schedule and not making any reference or commentary to the Asian demographic? Why make the comment on Twitter? Was he trying to shame Bob Chapek in any way, or was he really trying to generate more buzz and traction for the movie, which, if we have to be honest, has received a very much of a lukewarm reception? And then of course we talk again about Kevin Smith, with all of the issues regarding his He-Man Netflix anime series, making multiple responses to tweets by certain YouTubers prior to the film's release, and then doing a Q&A shortly after the release addressing these tweets once again. Now you think to yourself, why not just talk about promoting the show? Why did you have to release or respond to these tweets in the first place, because every time you respond to these tweets, whenever they are talking about certain speculative rumors, you kind of give it more credence or validity by responding to him. Now, was he trying to find out who was leaking certain information within the show, or was he trying to garner more traction for the show, realizing that if he responded to the tweets, it would get more people talking and get the show tracking a lot more within social media, which would give it more potential to gain more ratings? And there's certainly credence to this when, during his Q&A, he revealed that when he reported the negative criticism to Netflix, they simply noted that they weren't really concerned, as they had over 200 million subscribers, so any negative feedback towards the show wasn't really that important as long as they were watching it. So that in itself was a big indication really to see where the studios and the showrunners are in terms of their attitude towards the content that they produce. So this is where we really up now in terms of entertainment. After debating all of these points, we asked the question, does the strategy actually work? Does triggering and provoking, inciting reaction and negativity and controversy really gain success in the long term for your overall content? Well, in terms of actual traction and staying in the conversation and having many people talk about and debate and getting lots of tweets and hits and articles on social media platforms, the answer is yes. You do get that initial spike of bringing awareness of your content to non-fans and general audiences, but it's really only a short-term gain, as people may take a first look initially, but if the show quality isn't very good, then that negative word of mouth would spread very fast, and that will impact you and give you diminishing returns whenever you want to produce a continuation or a sequel of the content that you originally put out to begin with. And then when you try to adopt this tactic again to order to generate views and clicks and ratings, eventually the audience will catch on, they will realize the motivations and the techniques that you're using, and next time, instead of making multiple articles, they'll just ignore it, and then that will garner you having less success in terms of the content that you're putting out there. So in short, in my opinion, I think studios really need to learn that the tactic of provoking outrage for instant viewership really won't work in the long run, and the best way, if you want to have successful ratings, successful views, which will then garner in terms of box office sales or merchandise sales or high ratings, then the best tactic is to make good quality shows, good quality movies, respect the source material, respect the fandom, and that will garner positive word of mouth, and that will be the best way to transcend your material to general audiences, and you can have a long running franchise that is far more successful over a number of years. So those are my thoughts and opinions overall in terms of entertainment, where it stands at the moment, and how I feel showrunners and creators are wrongfully and ill-advisedly trying to provoke drama and outrage in terms to have more successful content, and in the long run I feel this will prove to their detriment rather than their benefit overall. So those are my thoughts and feelings on this current debate. Let me know what you think in the comments below regarding the recent issues and subject matter. If you enjoyed this type of debate and you'd like to see me cover more topics like this, then provide more suggestions to me, and I will see about providing you with more videos like this in the future. Please also hit and like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay at safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.